Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. We're going to jump right into things today because we are undertaking a truly fascinating, objective investigation into something that silently dictates almost everything we do. I'm talking about our underlying belief systems. Have you ever wondered why people act the way they do? Or why entirely different cultures develop the way they do? Well, it actually all comes down to the invisible architecture of the mind. Today, we're going to decode exactly how worldviews shape our thoughts, our actions, and really our entire reality.
So here is our roadmap for today's explainer. We're going to start with the lens of human life, move through the 4 ultimate questions, explore the inconsistency of beliefs, and learn how to objectively test coherence. Then we'll look at a life-affirming and holistic framework before wrapping the whole thing up with the dynamic perspective. Let's get started.
All right, Section 1, the lens of human life.
To really get a grip on the frameworks that guide us, we need to start pretty broad. We all have a worldview, right? Even if we're completely unaware of it, it's operating quietly in the background as our pre-theoretical common sense. So, to set a baseline for us today, we look to this absolute classic statement from Socrates: "The unexamined life is not worth living." Basically, this tells us that self-reflection is an absolute necessity for a meaningful existence. But our source material takes this ancient wisdom and applies a very specific, modern twist to it.
And here is that twist from Geisler. The unexamined worldview is not worth living by. Notice how that shifts our focus entirely. We aren't just examining our daily, everyday actions anymore. We are being challenged to examine the foundational framework that actually produces those actions. Because think about it, if your underlying ideology or philosophy is flawed, well, everything built on top of it is going to be incredibly unstable. The source describes a worldview as the framework through which you see and the basis on which you decide. Think of it literally like a pair of glasses that you never take off. It influences our seeing, our thinking, and our acting. It's essentially the comprehensive center of our entire personality. It incorporates all the visions, the values, the ideals, the myths, and the heroes that are deeply, deeply ingrained in us.
Moving on to Section 2, the 4 ultimate questions.
To achieve any kind of consistency, the source material notes that every single worldview, whether that's theism, atheism, pantheism, whatever it is, must attempt to answer 4 massive, universal questions. Question number 1, who am I? This digs right into the nature and purpose of humanity. Are we highly evolved animals? Are we divine sparks? Cosmic accidents? How a worldview defines human identity fundamentally dictates how it values human life. Question 2, where am I? This concerns the nature of the universe, or God. What is the fundamental nature of our environment and our reality? Are we living in a closed, purely material system, or is there some kind of supernatural element at play? This sets the stage for exactly where the human drama unfolds.
Question 3. What's wrong? Every culture, every single person on Earth recognizes that there is brokenness in the world. There's this universal recognition of evil. A worldview absolutely must have a working explanation for why things are not the way they're supposed to be. And finally, question 4, what's the remedy? Once a worldview identifies the problem, the evil or the brokenness, it has to offer a solution or a path to salvation. How do we actually fix what is broken? Together, these 4 questions form the ultimate diagnostic test for literally any ideology out there.
Which brings us to Section 3, the inconsistency of professed beliefs.
Now, here is where human nature really trips us up. We might have perfectly rehearsed answers to those 4 ultimate questions, but as the notes highlight, while our behavior is influenced by nature, nurture, and emotions, our underlying beliefs are what's decisive. Yet we suffer from massive inconsistency. Look at this comparison. What we actually profess to believe on the left is often completely contradicted by our real, deeply held beliefs and actions on the right. We might claim one worldview entirely, but actually live out a completely different one in our day-to-day lives.
All right, Section 4, testing a worldview's coherence. So, since human beings can be wildly inconsistent, how do we objectively evaluate if a worldview actually holds up to scrutiny? Well, a valid framework must meet 3 criteria. First, it has to be comprehensive, meaning it corresponds to reality and addresses the whole picture, not just the convenient parts. Second, it has to be consistent. It needs internal coherence so that it actually makes sense logically. And third, it has to be livable. Does it practically work for a human being trying to navigate the messy real world?
Section 5, life-affirming, holistic, and moral. To see how these criteria are practically applied, our source material narrows the funnel to impartially analyze a very specific framework. an 11-point structure for a Christian worldview. You can see points listed here, like it being true, consistent, livable, biblical, and organic. The notes specifically clarify that organic means it isn't a rigid, cold blueprint or some kind of rationalistic reductionism. Rather, it's a living system meant to help individuals become well-rounded, grounded human beings.
A really key concept here is point number 7 on that list, holistic. This framework is explicitly not dualistic. It firmly rejects the idea of separating life into disconnected, sacred, and secular categories. It's a comprehensive vision that applies to every single aspect of living. It doesn't compartmentalize your Sunday beliefs from, say, your Monday actions at the office. It's all connected.
And this brings us straight to the core of a livable framework. To truly be livable, a worldview must be life-affirming, meaning it deeply values humanity. It must be moral, realistically acknowledging the everyday battle between good and evil that we all face. And it is personal, founded on a relational God. Ultimately, this specific framework places a massive emphasis on being a good human being first and foremost. It takes abstract, high-level theology and translates it directly into the everyday reality of living well, treating others right, and navigating life holistically.
Finally, Section 6. The dynamic eternal perspective.
So how does this framework interact with time, the progression of culture, and our ultimate destiny? Well, first, it does so through an eschatological lens. You can think of this simply as an eternal perspective that balances ultimate judgment with ultimate hope. It means that everyday, ordinary actions suddenly carry eternal weight. This powerfully reinforces that moral framework we just talked about. It encourages people to be good humans in the present, while simultaneously providing lasting direction and hope for the future.
And that leads us to our final takeaway. The 11th point in the source text is dynamic, which is defined by the phrase, grace restores nature. Earlier in the notes, it states that worldviews are constantly in conflict. They either conform or they transform. So I want to leave you with this provocative question based directly on the text. If grace truly restores nature, is the worldview you are currently living by actively transforming the culture around you, or is it merely conforming to it? It's a pretty powerful challenge to examine the lens through which you view your own life. Thanks for joining me on this explainer today, and keep questioning the framework you see the world through.